What are the 3 worst diseases that my flock has had? Hey guys, I'm Kaylin, the author of The Parrot, Bliss, Bond, a few other books. 30 perfect apartment parrots. Look at that. Actually, there's more than 30, and they're categorized differently depending on whether you want small, medium, a little loud. The Parrot Keeper's Companion Journal, a journal, blank journal, novels. So make sure to check out my books on Amazon. This here is Hera, my African Gray. You can see she is a plucker. Yeah. And she is joining me today. Let's see if she wants a pistachio. Pistachio? Or if she just wants pets. She's like, oh, she took it. Okay. So today we are going to talk to you about the 3 worst diseases that my flock has had. And I am going to preface it by saying, you dropped half of your pistachio, by saying that I'm really lucky because as bad as it has been, we have never had beak and feather. And I think that beak and feather is an airborne disease. And I don't know, I just don't know if it gets worse than that. And so I'm actually grateful amidst the problems we've had. And number 1. E. coli, OMG. My old vet, I'd go in and I'd be like all, so what did the baby have or whoever? And they'd be like E. coli. And I would be like, how do they get it? Like, part of me is like, am I not keeping things clean enough? Am I like, what is it? And they're like, no, it's in the air. And they'd like laugh. And they're like, if you flush your toilet, it comes out of the toilet. They're like, it's everywhere. So then you sit there going, how do I combat everywhere? They're like, it's in the water. I'm like, but I boil my water. And they're like, yeah, but if you rinse anything like a vegetable and then you give it to them, they can get it. And OMG. So, this year, earlier in the year, I had a little E. coli outbreak, and that wasn't fun. But, you get the meds and you get it taken care of. The one difficulty is when you say E. coli, it sounds like one disease. And the thing about it, pets, like I said, she's hard of seeing, so it startles her, even though she wants pets. Do you want some pets? Pets? There you go. E. coli sounds like one disease, but the problem is there are different strains of E. coli and of the bacteria. And so one difficulty is that you have to actually find out, like your vet has to test and see what the E. coli is sensitive to, which is kind of like saying what kind of E. coli it is and therefore what antibiotic to give. So that's just no fun. I have had more of an E. coli issue with younger babies. And I'm always perplexed because, like I said, I boil the water. Like I try to be really, really careful with my birds. Anyway, so that's that one. And that one, it's sort of a pain and stuff, but it has medicine, so you can take care of it. The second one that I've had, and I haven't had it lately, a couple years ago, we had a breakout of Clostridium. Clostridium, I believe, is also a bacteria, because guys, don't forget, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a vet. I am a bird lover. My parrots are my bliss. I love all of my parrots, and I go out of my way to take the best care of them I can. So I'm pretty sure Clostridium is also a bacteria, and it's a pain. Now, one thing that's nice about it, is that it smells. So if your parrot's poop smells, and if you didn't already know this, your parrot's poop should not smell. If it smells, there's like one of 3 things that could be going on, and Clostridium is one of them. And that's not to say that it's, like, in other words, it could be a bacterial infection, and Clostridium is definitely one of them. Clostridium is similar to E. coli in the sense that it doesn't just knock your parrot out. It sort of goes at your parrot for the long haul. So what I mean by that is if you have a parrot, and like, for example, if you feel like their poop's a little stinky and you ignore it and it gets worse, the bacteria like does more and more damage. So it's not like your parrot's going to get sick and just die in 3 days, like that kind of thing, because parrots can get sick and fall that quickly. But it's more like it'll be slow and steady, and then they're really sick. So E. coli's, Clostridium, both of them. I don't like either of them. They are what I have experienced the most with my my flock. Drive me crazy. Now, the third and worst one is PDD, which is proventricular disease, also known as like ganglion. I can't even anyway. And it started as macaw wasting disease. It's the same virus, but its name has evolved. PDD is god-awful because, like beak and feather, it doesn't have a cure. So once your parrot gets it, that's that. Now, I have heard from my experts that in Europe, they've got something, a med that they're working with, and they're seeing if it helps PDD. I don't know if it's a cure or if it's a management treatment, like a treatment. I think it's, I don't even know. And the problem is, since it's in Europe, I really don't get to hear much and that kind of thing. My avian vet, who left to help open the biggest zoo or sanctuary in India, she said that they were working with it in India, and she said she's trying to figure out how much to give. And she's it's new enough that they're trying to develop strategies and I think figure it out kind of thing. So PDD sucks. It is the reason that Hera is my only remaining African gray. And Hera is not the only parrot it is claimed. PDD is very hard on African continent birds and also macaws. And so it's been very hard. It is contagious, but it's not airborne, but contagious enough that it's been a problem, and I have lost birds to PDD. It has been a disease that has had my birds go down pretty quick, and so that has been difficult and devastating, to say the least. Hera, for whatever reason, clucked, but she wasn't affected by PDD. I know, you know what? Let me see. Oh, there, look. That's better. Yeah, it was a little off balance. It was a little off balance. That might be better for you. Is that better? There you go. PDD, the symptoms, well, PDD is kind of a really difficult disease because the symptoms can vary between, number one, different species, number two, different birds, and number three, the viral strain of it. There are at least 3 viral strains, as I understand it. So that's kind of difficult. And of course, none of them have a cure. With all of these, what happens is the virus affects the nerves for the bird. And my new vet said that it turns sort of your parrot's body into an autoimmune, because since the nerves are damaged, like the bird, I think the nerves don't need, I don't know. You guys, I'm not a vet. What I understand is it affects the nerves, it turns into an autoimmune, and then what the problem is, birds really starve because in their stomach, proventricular, they can't squeeze the nutrients the way they could when they didn't have the virus because of their nerves. So basically they can't absorb their food, which means that they go hungry and they lose weight. So weight loss, lethargy, undigested seeds, those are some typical symptoms. One problem with undigested seeds is you don't have that symptom until they're in really bad shape. So it is a disease where it's hard to tell that they have it until it's kind of too late. Not that it matters, because once they have it, you know, there's really, there are some people who I think are fairly good at managing it, but basically it seems like it, you know, it just gets them. So it's a problem. So one difficulty is, you know, my vet has said to me, you know, with all the species you have, you keep things clean. It's just, there's E. coli in the air. Clostridium happens. It's in the air. And I have heard and read statistics and talked to some of my experts, and they have said, for example, PDD, they believe, comes from the avian bonavirus. And I've heard that 85% of parrots in the U.S. have the avian bonavirus, but that doesn't mean that they're going to get PDD. Maybe that means they have the potential for it. But one problem with it is that it means that you get a bird, they're perfectly healthy, and then one day the virus kicks in. I don't know if it wakes up and causes havoc or what, but that's sort of how it feels. So it's kind of hard because, like, there isn't a very good workaround in the sense that if your birds are outdoors, that's kind of nice, because if they're outdoors and separated, if one's sick, he or she won't necessarily give it to the others. Although with E. coli and Clostridium, I think they could. So if the cages are far enough apart, I don't think that would happen, because now the bacteria has to make it through the air, you know, and clean air is harder for it to work through, that kind of thing. But anyway, so PDD is a tough one because there aren't necessarily symptoms beforehand. Some parrots won't ever exhibit symptoms. And so it is just a disease that they can have and you don't know it, or they can have and it comes out. And some seem to do better with it than others. Some, like Hera, are probably carriers. Like, there's no way of knowing. I could do the $200 test to see if she has the avian bonavirus, but I don't do it because I just keep her separate. And I mean, you know, she's blind, so she doesn't do well with other birds right now anyway. And it doesn't change the protocol for her. Like, I still take the best care of her I can. I don't feed seeds to my nut eaters because they're nut eaters, for one thing, and for another thing, the seeds are harder to digest. So if you do have a bird with PDD, that's going to make it like that. If you let them eat seeds, then they're eating foods that they can't really digest. So now they get hungrier, if that makes sense. In other words, if they were eating something that was easier to digest, they can extract at least something out of it. Whereas the seeds, it's much harder for them. So it doesn't change how I take care of Hera. I take the best care of her I can. I give her nuts, not seeds. I give her fresh foods. I do everything I can, but she doesn't have symptoms. You can see that this naked bird, she looks pretty good. Other than being blind and plucked, I'm going to turn her around gently without upsetting her. You can see that she's not thin. As a matter of fact, she's kind of a really good example of a healthy bird in the sense that, number one, you can see her crop right now, that bulge right around here. She ate birdie breakfast. If I had a stick, I could point to it. I'm going to use my book. Do you see, right there, that bulge right there? That's breakfast, her fresh breakfast. And if you look under it, let's see if we can show you. Do you see the keel bone on the video? It's right there. It's kind of light, like a light gray. You can see that you can see her keel bone. If she was underweight, her keel bone, I'm going to try to keep her there so you can still see her. It would look more like that, like you would see her chest going in. And if she was overweight, you wouldn't be able to see the keel bone. Now, hopefully your parrot doesn't pluck. In captivity, it's common for parrots to pluck, of course. If your parrot doesn't pluck and you cannot see the keel bone, you can touch and feel for it. If you feel for it and you feel like a sharp bone, that's underweight. If you feel for it and you can't really feel anything, that's probably overweight. And with Hera, you could see that you would be able to feel it, and kind of like her wooden stick here that has a ridge, you could feel the ridge but it would feel kind of like it wouldn't after that go float up or float down, right? It's just a light ridge on the surface kind of thing, if that makes sense. So that would sort of be the thin, that would be the overweight, and just sort of a flat, maybe sticking out just a little, but that would be a normal, healthy weight. Now, I have found that my Puria conures, if I'm pronouncing them right, Puria, my green cheeks, the crimsons, those conures, they're kind of a little more slender. They're a sleek, slender bird. So part of it is you also look at your bird and you kind of see, because the conures tend to be a little thinner, I think, naturally and like in a healthy state. Whereas there are parrots that are a little chunkier, like they have a little more girth, like Quakers, my Caiques, Parrot here. And it's not that they're fat naturally, it's that they're not as sleek. Like if you look at an Indian ringneck, their head is small and their whole body is sleek, and then they've got this long tail, and they're just sleek all around. Whereas with Hera, you can see with any African gray, their body is it's thicker. And you could see from her wings and her body, it's just, she's not as thin as sleek. So that's a part of it too. All right, so there you have a little bit of a long version of my the three worst diseases that we've had, and a little bit on weight so that you can kind of have an idea as to whether or not it is affecting your weight, and the importance of smelling your parrot's poop, because Clostridium is awful, and it can, of course, kill your parrot in the long run if it goes untreated. So you really want to make sure to treat it so that it doesn't do damage to your parrot, and you can just take them to the vet and have it taken care of. Something like E. coli and Clostridium, they are diseases or infections that you could take a poop sample and your avian veterinarian can run the poop sample, or maybe they send it out to be cultured, but they check the gram stain, they check the culture, and they can then determine whether or not the parrot has an infection like that. And then you don't necessarily need to do an annual exam. An annual exam tends to include blood work, and it lets the avian vet know what's going on with the organs. But if you suspect an infection, you can just take them in for an appointment, have that culture and gram stain done on their poop, and if you don't suspect anything else, that can save you money. It's a very good first step anyway. All right, guys, thanks for joining me in this blissful video. I'll catch you next time.